ready? Turn on the on-air light, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming. These are important chances that the city has to communicate with the media and then on to our citizens. We always worry because we want our residents to be as safe and confident in city services as possible. So thanks to the media for being here. We very much appreciate your coverage. The mayor is out of town today representing the city at a conference and at meetings. So I'm here in his place as Mayor Pro Tem. I'm Chris Coleman on the council. A couple of things that I wanted to say before I introduce the real professionals. The city is prepared and ready to protect and serve the citizens. We're, as every storm, we have a very solid team and procedures in place that we're very confident about, and we'll do our best to make sure that people are safe and secure the next couple of days as this storm approaches and I think brings quite a bit of snow to us in the next 48 hours. I want to ask the citizens to pay special attention to some potential cancellations here at the city. Our Planning and Zoning Commission meets tomorrow afternoon, and we are going to wait to make the call as to whether or not that's canceled until tomorrow. So if you are interested in an issue before the Planning and Zoning Commission, please make sure that you check noon or early afternoon tomorrow to see if that meeting is still on. I would also encourage people to pay very close attention to the regulations that the council has passed over the last couple of years. There is a place on our website where you can get very detailed information. On our homepage, you can link to the Show Me My House link on our website, and that will take you to specific information about your residence, your location and your street, and exactly what the restrictions and rules are about our snow ordinance and other restrictions for your property. So please go to dmgov.org and use the Show Me My House link on that for all those rules. Our rules are in place not to punish anybody, but to protect the city and to provide the best opportunity we have to make sure that our residents are safe. The last thing that I would like to make sure that people realize is that the council, and I know I speak for the mayor, are very confident in the professionals that keep us safe and plow our streets and make sure that the city is, livable and a place where we can get to school and work. But in these storms, it's also important to remember that citizens have an important role as well. Please check on your neighbors. Please make sure that you're aware of what's going on around your home. Some of the most tragic situations are often right next door to many of us. So please do your best to be aware of the people on your street that might be a little bit more vulnerable or fragile in these conditions. And we sure appreciate and give gold stars to those citizens that are out checking on their neighbors. So use this as a good time to show your citizenship and the community that we have here in Des Moines, not just the city operations. So thank you very much. The next speaker is the leader of our response, and that's Pat Kozitza. He's the director of our Public Works Department.
Thank you, Councilman. The city of Des Moines has been tracking a storm now for several days. The storm is coming in from the west, and it looks now that it's going to begin here probably around noon to 1 p.m. tomorrow. With that, we're looking to receive maybe 3 to 5 inches now in the first wave of this, with another 1 to 3 inches on Friday. So we could be in the vicinity of 5 to 8 inches here of snow within that period of time. And so we're preparing for that. I'd like to share with you some of the details on that. To begin with, we see this storm a lot different than we see that blizzard of December 2012. Number one, we've got colder surfaces now. So when that snow hits, we're not looking at as much of the bonding of snow and ice. Secondly, we don't see rain in advance of the storm because of the cooler temperatures. We welcome that because with that, we see this going right to snow. And as a result, that pre-treatment that you see on the roads today, and I'm sure many of you saw it on the way in, And residents will see it throughout the city. That's a salt brine solution that we use. It's an anti-icing agent, and it keeps snow and ice from bonding to the roadway. With that, we then can plow and get earlier recovery on those roadways following the storm. So we've got anti-icing agent down now, and with the onset of the storm, which looks to begin again tomorrow between about 12 and 1, we'll begin with some de-icing materials, get a salt application down there to also keep that material from bonding. And then once we get to about an inch of snow on those main roads, we're going to go to plows. And we're going to continue to plow the city's 225 miles of snow routes until they are returned to winter driving condition. Once those are done, we will be moving into our residential streets. So we look to be on those for about the next 48 hours. So it's going to take a little time to clean this up, but we've got the right tools, and we've got the right equipment and the personnel to get it done. And we're looking to begin that with the onset of the snow. So what questions can I answer for you?
Are you guys worried about it coming not overnight with a lot of storms? It's coming right, during the middle of the day, rush hour?
It should be a concern to many. We see the operation one that is going to keep the main roads open, so people will be able to get around this city. What's important to us is that our public safety partners, police and fire, can get out and perform their duties. And so we keep the main roads open, and we'll start on those from the beginning and stay on throughout the storm. That is the heart of our policy, is to keep those 225 miles open so public safety can get through and people can get to work and get back home. You can get to a main road, you can get around. But it will be messy during tomorrow's rush hour in the evening. And so people need to take caution because we're going to be receiving snow at about maybe up to an inch an hour right through that rush hour.
Do you believe visibility will be a concern with the winds and the light, colder snow?
We do see that we're going to have some high winds with this. When I say high winds, you might be getting gusts up to 30 miles an hour. And with that, a light snow, low moisture content snow, can result in some drifting and blowing conditions. So there's always caution expressed, especially in the outlying areas. But we could experience some of that even in town.
Now, talk about parking. We got a interesting email from a viewer that said, is the parking restrictions, is that midnight to midnight? I'm just reading from it. Midnight to midnight, say a person comes home from work on an even day and parks correctly, do they have to go out at midnight and move their car across the street from Moines? Can you clarify that for us?
Yes. We have 5 areas in Des Moines, 5 neighborhoods that predominantly have odd even parking. Now, there's a new parking provision, and Jason will be covering the enforcement of that. But from a description standpoint, the majority of the city needs to be off the street during snow plowing operations. There are 5 areas, Drake Park, Carpenter, Sherman Hill, and Woodland, where due to the high density of multifamily structures and limited or no off-street parking, they are allowed odd even parking. The program hasn't been developed as people on an odd day, that means an odd day of the calendar, parking on that side of the street with homes that are numbered with an odd number. On the even day, they move to the other side. To try and further accommodate parking in that area, we only plow from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on those streets. So some confusion exists between 7 p.m. and midnight. We're only coming between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Right? All right.
With this being the first snow event where tickets will be issued on those new residential streets under the new ordinance, do you expect compliance with that? Do you expect to encounter any problems and issue any tickets?
And I'll let Jason speak to that enforcement action. I can tell you this, that we've been very impressed with the public and their compliance with this. And this is very important because, number one, you don't want your car buried. Number two, you want to be able to let us get through to do the job. And we've got another storm on the way here, Sunday and Monday. So we need to clear the streets out. People moving off the street allow us to do that with larger wing plow technology and get that snow out of the way before the next event occurs. So, Jason.
Let me introduce Jason. On that last subject, I would just say that I think the ordinance that we've passed on residential street clearing is working because the neighbors are the ones that are enforcing it the most. They want streets off, they want cars off the streets because they want their street to be plowed well. It's frustrating to all neighbors when they have a car buried and then they get pushed out and then the snow is there. So I think the ordinance is working pretty well and I expect real compliance. It was my job to introduce Sergeant Jason Halifax, who is our public information officer for the police, and I think you're probably real well prepared to answer some of the enforcement questions.
Thanks. As most of you know, obviously we discussed already today that we've had some changes with how we enforce parking ordinances, parking violations during snowstorms this year. Once again, those snow routes, we will enforce those the same as we always have this year so far and years in the past, where if you're parking on snow routes during snow removal processes, you will get a ticket and you are subject to impoundment. Now, again, with the new ordinances this year, we have now citywide snow ordinance in effect where you cannot be on residential streets with the exception of the odd even areas during snow removal efforts on those parts of town. The first two snows we've had, we issued warnings only. On this snow, we will be issuing citations. And again, you will be issued a citation and your car is subject to being impounded. So we ask that you just move your car, get it off the road, get it on the driveway, a parking lot somewhere else, allow our plows to get through, they can clear it off quicker, and we can get on with business as usual, safer. We do have, speaking a little bit of our mobility, we do have a number of fleet of four-wheel drive vehicles that we will have be issued to our patrol officers. We don't anticipate any problems with us responding to any calls for service with what vehicles we have in place. We ask motorists that you don't have to be out during this snowstorm, please stay home. The fewer cars on the streets, the quicker we can get the streets plowed. The fewer accidents usually happen with fewer cars on the street. Reminders, obviously, that with the snow on the ground, possible ice on the ground, your stopping distances will increase. Please drive cautiously. Be aware of other motorists, maybe driving different speeds than you. Be aware of our snow plows that are trying to get a path cleared for all of us to get around easier. And just a word of note too, remind us if you have a four-wheel drive vehicle, please use caution with that vehicle as well. It may be easier to go, but you're still going to stop with the same distance as everyone else. So don't be reckless, please, with your driving abilities and driving skills at that point. Do you have any questions at all for me?
Sergeant, tell us about the tickets, sir. What's the price if somebody gets ticketed, or does it vary?
Ticket price for snow route violations are $35. If your vehicle does get impounded, that will incur additional fees, both administrative at the police department, as well as fees from the impound company. So obviously it's much easier for all of us and cheaper if cars are please removed from the streets.
And you said your advice is just that you can leave work early, or if your boss let you just try to get home, or?
Advice is, if you can at all avoid the roads and are driving during this, please do so. Again, just we're all a little better off if we have fewer cars out during this time.
We need all members of the media at work.
I'll be at work.
Do you have any other questions?
Why would they get impounded if it was in a dangerous situation, if the car got a ticket and it was on the side, it would be impounded as well?
Well, we'll start with the tickets. Then we'll go through the snow routes where we'll start first. We'll ticket those. Then when they go back through, if cars remain, then they're subject to impound. Now, whether or not we definitely impound will depend on a couple different variables. So if it's in a dangerous situation or creating a hazard, that will probably most likely be one of the first to be towed. But again, that will depend a little bit on a couple different variables, how busy the department is, how busy our tow services are, and how hazardous the weather is. Tow companies that we use who have a contract with us, however, they also can work some of their private calls as well. So if they're busy, we may have a bit of a delay having them come do some impounds, but the point is, it's possible to have a car.
And it's your own car on the street.
Who's not?
Okay.
Do you know how many warnings were handed out during the last snowstorm? Do you expect to hand out a significant number of tickets this time?
During the first snowstorm, we handed out a little over 2,000 warnings, and it was a little right around that same number for the second snowstorm, perhaps a little higher. We do actually expect more compliance at this point. Kind of the first two ones were the trial phase, warning phase. Now that information is available that we will be issuing citations, we do expect better compliance.
As council members, we get a lot of questions about the specifics of the hours, and I mentioned to Pat that I thought we ought to be real clear because there are different rules between the exempt neighborhoods, the odd even neighborhoods, and the rest of the city. The rest of the city is about 90% of us that live in Des Moines. So I asked Pat to make sure to be real clear about those hours and what homes those are appropriate for, what streets.
Thank you, Councilman. Once the snow begins, snow removal is a 24-hour-a-day operation. And that's what it is, first on the snow routes, then on all residential streets, with the exception of those 5 neighborhoods. In all the rest of the streets, we will announce we're starting work on the residential streets. Now, if I have a piece of equipment open sooner, I'm going to put it on a street someplace. But we won't call Jason to start enforcement until we announce it. Once we announce we're coming to the residential streets, then it's important that people be off the street, with the exception of those 5 neighborhoods. And in those neighborhoods only, the plowing is done during the day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. All the rest, we work 24 hours. We need to move this snow out of the way so the majority of the people can have a street clear of snow, curb to curb, as soon as possible, and certainly before the onset of the next storm. Any questions about that? Because it's important people understand we are going to be out there in the middle of the night. We're going to do whatever it takes to open that street up, except in those 5, that'll be a daytime plowing operation.
On another topic, do you expect any services to be interrupted, trash, anything like that?
At this point, we do not see that as something being interrupted. High winds may cause that. If we had significant snow like we did in December, we may, but that'll be an announcement you would get at 10 in the morning when the councilman has recommended follow our channel to see if there's any cancellations. But at this point, we are planning that we'd have solid waste collection services.
With the storm coming in waves over several days, does that change how you prepare or change how you do anything as opposed to a regular storm?
When we know the forecast way in advance, you mean? Thank you, yes. Well, I think preparation for winter storms is always different. You know, it's sort of like, for me, baking a cake on an open fire. You know, what you've got is all the right ingredients. You got instructions to follow, but you can never be sure what's going to happen because you're not sure of the temperature. And that's just like a snowstorm. When the onset comes, that's when you know what exact actions are needed. When you've got a forecast way in advance, that really helps us, because once we can move into a full salt brine operation, we've got that anti-icing agent down, not only on our snow routes, but on all residential streets. That'll help them all recover faster from the snow event.
And how are you guys doing on your budget and supplies?
Thank you. Interestingly, we receive on the average about 33 to 34 inches of snow a year. We're at about 24 inches now. But it's been an interesting winter because, as you can see, it comes in clumps. We don't get this regular on-off system. We are still at about 2/3 of our budget now. So we're on track very, very well with the budget as well. So we're doing just fine. We're at a little over $2 million now, year to date, on about a $3.2 million budget. So those downtimes have really helped us to get our equipment back online, get materials replenished, and our people back off the clock. All right, thank you.
Thanks again for coming. We very much appreciate your time. I will be a citizen as well as a council person, and I will be spending part of my time keeping a good thought for the firefighters, the police officers, public works employees that work for all of us citizens. They'll be going 24/7. for, it sounds like, several days through a third storm on Monday, maybe. So we very much appreciate their service. They're great public servants. Thank you all for coming.